Hey everyone, today we are restoring my 1961 or 1962 original vintage Ken doll. He's here inside of this little case. And I found this doll with my mom back in October of 2023. So he's been hanging out for a long time waiting to be restored, but here he is. You can see he's in pretty rough condition. Like, all of his flocking is gone, but I am excited to work on him. I've also got some little clothing pieces for him, so we'll take a look at those as well and, you know, find a cute outfit for him to wear. But yeah, you can see he needs some help. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and we will get to work. But before we do, I need your help. We're going to rank the top 10 best Ken face molds. So yes, just like we did with Barbie, it is now Ken's turn. So I made a survey. The link is in the video description, and I need you to go and enter up to 3 of your favorite Ken face molds. Now you can do any Ken family member, any Ken friend, any male face mold in the Barbie universe. A great reference guide is fashiondollz.de. I will also put that link in the video description, and you can honestly, any male face mold that they've got on there is eligible to be nominated, essentially. You can go to their all-male face mold category. You could even check out their celebrity dolls or B-side lines. Essentially, any male doll from the Barbie signature universe. So have fun looking them up and then go vote for your 3 favorite face molds. And if you can please look at the reference guide and include the year when you're voting for your face mold, just because, for example, you might vote for Alan, but there's at least 2 different face molds named Alan, and they are spelled differently and the year is different. So please make sure that you are voting for the right face, and it would be very helpful for me if you include the year. The reference guide that I'm including in the video description has all of the years that these face molds were patented, so if you can include that year, it'd be very helpful. But okay, let's go ahead, let's get to work on our Ken. Okay, so looking at his face, we can see there's some paint missing. Obviously, his flocking is practically non-existent, and overall he just looks very dirty and grimy. I'm also noticing a huge difference in the color of his head and his torso. His shirt has some holes in it, and his arms also are like his head and his arms sort of match, which I think maybe they just kind of yellowed or darkened over time, unfortunately. We'll try to fix that. We'll see what we can do. But yeah, his shirt has some holes in it, so I will try to fix up those holes as well. But I do love this little Ken tag there on the collar, and his the button, one of the buttons right there is also broken off of the shirt, so we'll have to fix that. So yeah, let's get him undressed, and I do just want to take a look at his body because I think he's been rebodied. Because according to a book called The Original Ken Book by Anthony Gayton, all of the original Ken dolls would say the name Ken would be stamped onto their back up until Alan was introduced in 1964, and then it would just be a generic marking that would just say copyright 1960 by Mattel, and that is what my doll right here has. So I do think that this is one of those later 1964 bodies that were used on Ken or Alan. And another thing, his hands, if you look at his fingers, his hands are not the way they were on the original earliest Ken dolls. Their index fingers were kind of curved with the rest of their fingers, whereas mine's index finger is a little more pointed and the rest of his fingers are curved. And these hands with the kind of more pointed index finger, I believe were introduced around 1963. And also the body on my Ken right here, his legs, his stance are not as wide as some Kens would be. Mine's are a little more of kind of like a more natural, relaxed stance, I guess. And mine's eyebrows are pretty thin, which also leads me to believe that his head is from probably 1962. So I don't think that he's one of the 1961, first edition flocked hair Kens. I think he is a slightly later edition where the eyebrows were a little bit thinner. But yes, again, looking at his face, we do have a lot to clean up, some paint to touch up. His body is a little bit dirty too. It's a little scuffed up in some places, so we will try to clean those up as well. So let's start cleaning. I'm just going to fill up a bowl with some OxyClean and a little bit of dish soap and hot water. And then we're just going to go ahead and stir that up and we will place him in there. And I'm just kind of placing his head and his torso in there, and you can immediately see like that streak of like yellow brown coming off of his head in the water as soon as I put him in. So yeah, I imagine that is probably a lot of his original flocking paint and whatnot. Yeah, and dirt and grime, of course, too. So we're gonna let him soak for a couple of minutes, and then I'm gonna pull him out, and we're going to pop his arms off. They come off pretty easily, as well as his head. And I just want his legs, his head, and his arms to really soak in this OxiClean, just to see if it helps to lift any of the discoloration that maybe is just due to layers and layers of dirt and grime. So we'll let it all soak in the bowl for about an hour. And right here, you can see how murky that water is looking. So after maybe like 30 minutes or so, I'm just checking the head and seeing how it's looking compared to the body. Of course, if you're really wanting to bleach this vinyl, like bleach the head and bleach the arms and bleach the legs, that can take a week. It could take longer of just soaking the doll in, you know, whatever solution, whether it's denture tablets or OxiClean. But yeah, so I'm just taking a toothbrush and I'm just kind of trying to scrub some more of the surface layer of, you know, dirt and grime off, trying to clean his face. And the arms, I'm noticing, are still obviously, you know, still pretty yellow looking, pretty dark, but we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna keep scrubbing. And I'm taking some baking soda and Blue Dawn dish soap mixed with water just to get a slightly more abrasive scrub. What I should have done though is, before doing the scrub, I should have just looked at the doll and, you know, decided if this was necessary or not, because I don't know if the baking soda left afterwards once it dried. There were some like white scuffs. It looked like white scuffs. They weren't actual scratches, I don't think, but yeah, and I don't know if that's even from the baking soda or if that was from the, you know, many years that this doll has been around and been played with and been wherever. So what I should have done is, before I used the more abrasive baking soda scrub on his face, I should have just let his face dry and, you know, assess it then and decide if it would have been needed or not. However, I do think the arms and the body are fine to scrub with the baking soda. So obviously you can see that is what I'm doing right now. So now I'm just going to rinse everything off with some water, get it nice and clean, and then we will try and let it dry. Okay, so now the body is still looking pretty scuffed up, like especially on the torso. So I'm going to take a magic eraser and just get it a little wet and just kind of scrub down the body and see if that will help get rid of any of these scuffs. Essentially, you know, magic erasers, they're slightly abrasive, so they can sometimes, you know, buff or polish or sometimes remove some scuffs. So I'm going to do that all over the torso, as well as the legs too. There's actually this little mark on the leg right here that came off really nicely with the magic eraser. And now I'm actually taking a nail buffer polisher, and yeah, in his pelvic region, it was very scuffed up, like very scratched. So I'm just trying to, you know, settle it down a little bit. I'm not trying to make it look perfect, brand new. He is from 1962, I'm assuming. So it's okay if there are some imperfections and scratches. I'm not trying to make him look like a brand new, you know, modern reproduction. I do want him still to look vintage. Yeah, and this just makes it all easier because you don't have to make it perfect. So yeah, I'm just taking this nail buffer and I'm just starting by kind of filing down places that I think are really scratched and scuffed, and then just going and like buffing and then polishing with all the different sides of this nail buffer. I'm hoping it'll just bring back some more shine on his torso because it was looking a little dull. And then I'm noticing right here on his neck, I think maybe it's like glue. Maybe someone tried to glue his head back on. Yeah, okay, so I think the body's looking fine. I'm just gonna keep going over some spots with the polishing side of the nail buffer just to see if it does restore any shine. But yes, the arms are still looking pretty yellow, so I'm gonna soak them in denture tablets for about 24 hours. Again, if you really wanted a very, very significant change, you would probably need to leave it in there for like 2 weeks, maybe less or more, but it does take a long time for this type of vinyl to lighten up. But I am on a little bit of a time crunch, so we will see what can happen in 24 hours. Yeah, in the head, I'm just re-soaking it back in some hot water just because there were some scuffs. So I just want to see if like really hot water will help to just kind of reset the vinyl and maybe get rid of, you know, those like white scuffs that I thought were from the baking soda. But you can sort of see here, there's like on his nose, on his cheeks in some places, there's like these scuffs. So I'm gonna try to get rid of those. But he also had this in his body. I don't know what that piece is too. Let me know if you know. But yeah, okay, so for these like white scuffs, I'm gonna take some acetone on a Q-tip and I'm gonna very, very carefully just test in the back of his neck to see if it helps with those white scuffs and to make sure that it doesn't damage this vinyl. And after testing, I think it looks okay. I think it's gonna be fine. So I think we are safe. So I'm just gonna go over some spots on his face where I think it looks a little scuffed up or a little scratched up, and I'm just gonna see if this acetone will help to sort of just mend those issues. And I think it is working. Of course, I am avoiding any of his original paint. I do not want to take off any of the original paint. So yes, be very careful. Acetone will definitely remove the paint if you do get the acetone on it. But yeah, so let's see, on his nose too, there was like that white mark on his nose. So I'm gonna try to get rid of that. And yeah, I'm noticing the acetone is getting rid of those white spots and just evening out the skin tone. So once I'm done with the acetone, I'm just gonna spray his face with water and take a little cotton ball and just kind of wipe it down. And so yes, I think it's looking better, more even. I'm not noticing those white like scuffs or scratches anymore, so yay. Now inside of his lips, I'm noticing there's like, it looks like this kind of like crusty bubbled paint, but over time I think that happens. And I was looking at pictures of original Kens in that book that I mentioned earlier, and some of them had that in their lips too, so I'm not going to try to get rid of that. But there is this little spot right here where the paint kind of was overdrawn outside of his eye, so I'm just kind of taking a little bit of acetone on a toothpick, just trying to remove that excess paint. Some people might prefer to leave that, so you might prefer those like original factory error little details. I mean, it's barely an error, but I just wanted to get rid of it. So yes, the arms are still soaking in my denture tablets underneath a heat lamp because I want the water to stay warm, because that is sort of what activates the denture tablets, is the warmth from the water. So next we need to start reflocking. So I bought from restoredoll.com these two different shades of flocked hair. So we've got blonde and tan. So I'm going to create a little flocking bottle tool. So I'm taking this miniature mouth rinse bottle and I'm taking the cap. And I'm using a very heated skinny nail to poke holes inside of the cap, so that way I can create kind of, you know, something that will work as like a powdered effect, or like, you know, like you're shaking seasoning out of a little bottle. Yeah, so I'm gonna poke like 5 holes inside of this bottle cap, and then yeah, so that'll be my little flocking tool. And then I'm gonna create a little funnel to get the fibers inside of this little bottle. So I'm taking some paper and I'm just kind of rolling it up like this into a funnel, and I'm taking some tape just to secure it. And then we will go ahead and just pour some of the powder, and I'm starting by using a little bit of the tan. I want to create kind of a mix of the tan and the blonde. Sometimes the blonde by itself looks a little too yellow for my liking, so I'm mixing a little bit of the tan in there. And on my funnel, I need to make the hole at the bottom a little bit bigger because the flocking powder is not going through. So yeah, I'm just trying to make that hole at the bottom of the funnel a little bigger, because even though these are really, really tiny fibers, they do clump up together, so it was not going through my funnel at first. So yeah, now we are adding the majority will be this blonde. But yeah, you can see the blonde, it's kind of yellow, but that is very close. I mean, that is what the original blonde Kens looked like. It was a pretty yellow blonde. So yeah, but I'm kind of trying to make a little custom blend, a little bit of a beachy blonde, hopefully. So Yeah, and you just have to tap the funnel to get the flocking powder inside of there. And then I'm just going to cover the cap and shake it up to hopefully blend those two colors. So good. I think this will look good on him. So let's go ahead. We will paint his scalp first before we add any of the flocking. So I'm just going to create a little mixture using some acrylic paint and try to get it to match the flocking color that we've got going on. So I'm just mixing some brown, some like mustard colored paint, some white, some yellow, some orange, to try and create a close match. And I also do want to water this paint down so that way it's not too streaky. Even though we will be covering it all with the flocking fiber, I just want to water it, dilute it down a little bit with some water. So yeah, we will coat his head with a couple of layers of this paint before we actually apply the flocking. And I'm just going to take a toothpick just to remove any places where maybe I got some paint where it shouldn't have been. And we will just keep coating it. I think I did 2 or 3 layers of the paint. When you dilute it, of course, the paint becomes a little thin, so you do want to do a couple of layers. And yeah, I'm noticing the head is still much tanner than the torso, but it's okay. Again, it is what it is. You could, if you've got the time, you could let his head soak for a couple of days, a couple of weeks, and see if you can get a brighter result. So now I'm just going to use some, again, kind of watered down tacky glue to glue on the flocking fiber. You could use other glue as well. You could probably use a glue that's maybe a little more permanent, maybe a little more waterproof, but since this is my first time ever flocking a doll, I would prefer to not do extremely permanent invasive steps like using, you know, a super glue or any other kind of crazy glue. So I'm just using tacky glue because it's pretty easy to work with. The flocking, I'm trying to figure out how to use my little powder tool that I made, and I'm realizing shaking it like seasoning does not really get it out because, like I said, these fibers, they're really thin, but they clump up. So trying to shake it doesn't really work. You actually have to like squeeze the bottle. You have to squeeze it to like blow it out, sort of. So yeah, so I'm trying to figure out how to coat his head, make sure that all the glue is covered, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and try to gently knock off some of the excess fibers. And then what I would do is immediately, as soon as you knock off the excess fibers, go ahead and just sprinkle another layer on and then just set them aside to dry. That was something that I didn't do for this very first layer. Like you can see his head, you can still see some of the glue very, very prominently, and I should have just covered it again with another layer of flocking. But I'm taking the excess flocking on this sheet of paper. So if you didn't notice, I was flocking him over a sheet of paper, so that way the excess flocking fibers would land on the paper, and now I can take the paper, fold it, and pour it back into my bottle so I can just reuse that unused flock. So here he is now after, I think, a second layer of flocking, and we're gonna go ahead and we will do another layer. Before I start this next layer, I'm just gonna try to knock off some more loose fibers before adding the glue. So here we go, we're adding the glue. I definitely want to make sure that we've got all of the edges and the hairline coated really nicely with the glue, so that way the flocking will adhere to it really well and it'll look nice and full. And again, I will take my toothpick to remove any spots where glue landed where it shouldn't have. And then, yeah, we will just do the same thing. We will sprinkle the flocking powder all over his head. And then we will gently tap off some of the loose powders. And then immediately go back over it with another layer. And then gently tap off some more excess and set him aside to dry. And then we will do another layer. I think I did maybe 4 layers in total. Great. Okay, so I think we are done flocking him. So now that we're finished, I'm going to again tap off any excess loose fibers. I'm taking a little brush, trying to brush them off very gently and get him looking nice and clean. Before we go ahead and really wipe down his face, I'm taking a little bit of water and a little bit of rubbing alcohol just to wipe down his face. You obviously want to make sure you do not touch the flocking from here on out. You want to be very careful not to get it wet. And now we're going to start the repaint. Well, not full repaint. It's just a partial, paint touch-up. So I'm taking a very skinny brush, and I'm taking some clear matte varnish because I just want to first take the matte varnish and just trace over the places where I want to apply actual paint to, which is really just going to be his eyelids, his eyebrows, and his lips. And I'm just trying to create a matte surface for the paint to go on top of, just hopefully so that way it'll adhere a little better. And this is also a great way to practice and get used to the feeling of, what you need to cover, how you need to cover it before you actually cover it with real visible paint that you can see. So yeah. So now we're going to go ahead with some brown paint, and we're going to start by working on his eyelids. So I'm actually just diluting the brown paint with a little bit of the matte varnish and some water as well. And I'm taking an even thinner brush this time, and we're going to go in and start by tracing his eyelids. And I apologize, you can see me in the corner poking in with my little magnifying lenses that I'm wearing, and if you get paint anywhere where you don't want it, that is okay. You can just take a Q-tip and try to just very gently clean it off, or even a little toothpick, and try to remove any mistakes. And now I'm going to go ahead and try to fill out this eyebrow. His right eyebrow right here was really missing a lot of paint, so we're just trying to fill in those missing spots. And his other eyebrow, we will also go ahead and just trace over it to make sure that they both match and look nice and full and not dull. Now we're going to go ahead and try to make a mixture, a good color for his lips. So some Ken dolls, some vintage Ken dolls, their lip color would range from like kind of a salmon pink to sort of like a corpse-like purple sometimes, like a faded dull purple. And I think I actually made mine a little more on the purple side. I kind of wish I made it a little more salmon, a little more lively, a little more warm and bright, but it's okay. I think mine's original color did look kind of like more of the like purplish brown lip, but then again, we don't need him to look totally fresh. It is okay if he does look a little aged and a little dull, because I do want him to look like he is from 1962 and not like a reproduction of a 1962 doll. So yeah. Now we're going to go over everything with a couple of coats and a couple of layers. So to build up these paints, because I am diluting them with water, the paint will be, sort of thin. So we do want to let everything dry and then just go back over everything with a couple of layers. I think I layered everything at least 3 times, maybe 4 times. And I'm also going in and under his eye. So like rather than his upper eyelid, his lower eyelid also needed a little bit of, color, a little bit of that brown paint, because the original dolls did have that, and the reproduction Ken did have it too, very prominently. I don't need mine to look as prominent as that, but yeah, this is where I think we're gonna finish with him and his repaint, or his paint touch-up. So now I'm gonna take a little bit of diluted gloss varnish and just coat the spots that I painted. So we're just gonna cover the eyebrows, the eyelids, and the lips, because he did originally have more of a glossy finish rather than a matte finish. I did though, actually, I didn't show it, but I did actually add a little bit of my matte varnish to the gloss mixture, because I didn't want it to be too glossy. So I did add a little bit of the matte just to tone it down, just so that way it's not too shiny, but yeah. Okay, actually I did decide to redo his lips and make them just a little more pink. I felt like they were a little too dark, and I feel like the pink looks good with like his blue eyes and his light, light brown eyebrows and his blonde hair. And I don't know, I think I like this better. So I did this totally last minute, like literally 30 minutes before uploading this video. So I had recorded the rest of the video with his original lips, and I recorded the outro with the original lips, and then I just now decided to change them them and just make them, yeah, a little more pink. So I think I like this better. So, okay, yeah, this is the final paint touch-up, and yeah, like I said, the rest of the video is going to have the original, but I will share some pictures on Instagram of his new final look. So, yeah. So now, here's his arms. They are still a little dark, but I feel like they're not as yellow, right? Like, I feel like they're not as orangey yellow, but I'm noticing right up there, you know, on the shoulder, there's some scuffs and some scratches. So again, I'm going back in with the acetone, trying to see if that will just sort of melt away those spots, and it did. I feel like it definitely helped to tone down and hide those scuffs and those marks. So now I'm just taking some water just to wipe down the arm one last time, and we'll repeat that with the other arm too. So good. So now before we put these arms back in, we can see there's some of this like excess plastic that I need to just, well, I don't need to, but I want to trim off this excess plastic. So I'm just taking these little like wire cutters just to cut away those like melted plastic bits. And then we'll go ahead, I'm gonna heat up the arms with a blow dryer so that way we can pop them back into the shoulder sockets. So there we go. I think it looks good. You know, from a distance, the discoloration is not too noticeable, and again, you know, I'm not going to worry about it too much. It is what it is. Overall, I think he looks good for the condition that he's in, and I think his face looks nice and very, hopefully more alive and a little more vibrant, and yeah, so I'm happy with him. So let's go ahead, let's fix up his shirt now. I do not know how to sew, but we're going to try our best. This sleeve right here was practically almost detached. It was just hanging on from the top, so underneath I need to connect the sleeve to that seam where the front and the back of the shirt meet. So first I'm just trying to yeah, connect that right there, so that way rather than one giant hole in the sleeve, it is two holes that are anchored down because I sewed the sleeve back into that seam where it's supposed to be, and then we will go over and sew those two holes shut. In my mind, I just thought that this would be the best way to make sure that the sleeve was, you know, in the right spot and attached in the right spot. So yeah, I did not do a great job with this. Again, I'm not really good at sewing, especially hand sewing, so I tried my best and it is not perfect, and in the end I could still see some of my stitches from the outside, so you know, it is what it is. But yeah, so we're gonna go ahead, we will just look for any other holes and we will sew those up. And now we need to fix this button. So one of the buttons here in the front had come off. So luckily his shirt still has the full set for the button. It's just attached to, you know, the one side. So I need to pop it off of that. I just need to sew it into the right spot. Great, so that is fixed. Now let's go ahead and let's try to find him an outfit. He came with only that shirt, so he didn't come with any pants, he didn't come with any shoes or any other accessories, but I'm looking through this little case of vintage clothes and things that my mom found for me. So Mom, thank you so much. And you can see I've got my 1963 Fashion Queen Barbie in there, who needs to also be touched up a little bit, and we need to make some wigs for her, so that'll be a future video. But yeah, my mom also, she found this case and she cleaned it up for me and it looks so nice and so good, so thank you, Mom. But okay, so let's see what clothing pieces we have in here. We've got this jacket right here which looks really nice. We've got these matching pants with the zipper, so I think we might use those. We've got these white pants right here that are really cute. We've got this sweater right here which is cute, but it's got that hole in it. We've got Alan's shirt, which is so cute. So now I need an Alan, and I need his shorts and his sandals. This little nighttime shirt. We've got this shirt right here, which is really cute too, but I think we'll go with this matching set of shirt and jacket because I think it complements his shirt that he came with really nicely. And then I also had this pair of pants, which I think this is maybe homemade, maybe handmade, because the stitching is like zigzag stitching, and I don't think Mattel ever used zigzag stitching, so I think it's homemade. But yeah, so we'll put these other outfit pieces together, we'll set those aside, and yeah, we'll just use this outfit. So yeah, his shirt is fixed, you know, the sleeves are fixed, the holes are fixed. My stitching wasn't super clean, but it's good enough. We're gonna put the jacket on him anyway, so you won't see the sleeves. This jacket is also missing some buttons, but it's okay. I'm not gonna worry about it. And I think that jacket and the pants are clean, but the shirt I don't think is clean, judging on the condition the doll was in when I got him. So yeah, since that's the shirt he was wearing, we're gonna clean it. So I'm gonna take some OxiClean, some laundry detergent, and some hot-ish water. I'm gonna let the OxiClean dissolve a little bit in the hot water, and then I'm adding some cold water because I don't want the water to be too hot when I'm trying to clean this shirt. So yeah, now here we go. So let's just soak the shirt and let it soak for maybe like 10-15 minutes, and you can already see the color of that water is changing and turning very murky, very brown, very gross. So I guess there was a lot of, yeah, nastiness caked into that shirt. So wow, okay, yeah, so it's been about like 10 or 15 minutes of the shirt soaking. So we will rinse it off. We will soak it again for another 5 minutes with some clean water and some fabric softener. So now I let the shirt dry in front of a fan for about an hour, and it's looking good. It is nice and clean, and we've got the button fixed and everything. So let's go ahead. We will get him dressed, but first, the pants are missing a button. So I went ahead, I just sewed on a clear button that I had. So there we go. Now we can put these pants on, and we can zip them up and button them shut, and great. Yeah, I think the pants look good, and I trust that they were clean. Yeah, now we'll go ahead, we'll put the shirt on, and great. So yeah, I think the shirt looks good. I mean, again, I tried my best with the sewing. I probably should have also ironed the shirt a little bit, but it's okay. So let's put on the jacket, and sadly I don't have any shoes for him. So I'm gonna go and I'm gonna try to look for some shoes in my stash, but yeah, that is basically it. Oh my gosh, we are done. We finally did it. So he is dressed, and we'll look for some shoes, and then we will see how he's finally looking. Okay, we are finally done, and I'm very happy with him. So yes, here's a final look at him, and yeah, I think his face came out pretty good. The flocking, you know, I think I'm happy with it. It was my first time doing all of this, so I'm very pleased, and yeah, and I'm excited to hopefully do more in the future, because this was very therapeutic. It was very fun, and I just threw on these random modern Ken shoes. These were the only shoes that I had that like somewhat fit him and somewhat worked. So yeah, I will have to look and order some real vintage Ken shoes for him. But yes, he's very cute, and I really I just want to get more vintage dolls now. This has unlocked a Pandora's box, and I'm probably going to want more vintage stuff, but we'll see. We will see. We will take it easy, but for now, I'm very happy with him, and he's very special. I will always remember my mom and I going to the antique store and finding him in the basement of this antique store, and he was just such a mess. And he needed help, and he needed love and a new life, and I'm so happy to have been able to give that to him. So yes, thank you all so much for watching. Make sure that you go and vote for your favorite Ken or male faces in the Barbie universe. Definitely let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you have any restoration tips or tricks that you think I should try or that you think would have made this better. I am very open to hearing everybody's perspectives and knowledge. So yes, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye.